Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and this is COVID-19 2020 financial episode rundown. So just a quick update. We are not doing any editing on this episode. We are recording this with the one, the only Miata Edoga, financial assistant, help expert extraordinaire to the actors and artists over at the Actors Fund. And we decided we wanted to get together and do like a hash out so you guys can have some understanding of what to do with your finances at this moment. Miata and I have a great plan for people. And we're also going to make sure that for those of you who have some financial availability to you because you are in financial health at this moment, some things that you can do to help assist other people within this community and also get something in return for yourself. So just a quick FYI about that. I'm very excited and I'm really truly honored to be able to serve this community. If you have somebody that you know that is an actor that doesn't listen to this podcast, this is a vital episode, I think, to share. I think it would just be smart for everyone just to share it. Just share it with all the actors that you know. Anyone who's a freelancing artist, I'm literally getting chills as I say this because I think I really feel the vital importance of the discussion that we're about to have to help all of us maintain and help each other in this time. All right. It seems silly now. I was gonna do the intro, but it seems like you don't know anything. Is that what I want to say right now? No. Okay. Audrey helps actors because she'll help us in this time of need. Wow. All right. Hi, everybody. So, hi, Miata. Hello.
Hello, Audrey.
Hi. We have been in a lot of discussion over this period of time, the two of us, and we have a strategy that we're going to talk about for people who are in some financial difficulties. And then we're going to move on to a strategy for people who are feeling financially well and ways that they can go ahead and support other artists and actors during this time. Great. Okay, so Miata, let's first start with a systematic sort of check-in that freelancing artists and actors can do at this moment. If you are a person who's been affected by the shutdown in the sense that you've been forced to go on unemployment, you've been forced to quit your job or be fired, you are not working, and your acting income obviously is, God knows what that's going to be. And we are now in Los Angeles on like lockdown, essentials lockdown for at least 1 month. So that's where we are. It is March 20th. And so that's going to be at least through April 20th. So why don't you go ahead and let's talk to them about a few imperative things regarding financial concerns. Let's start with California and Los Angeles in particular and what this eviction hold is.
Okay, so essentially what the governor has done is he has declared a moratorium on evictions during this emergency, okay? So there are specifics as to how that works, and I'm just going to give you a very general overview. Because what people are asking is, does this mean I should not pay rent on April 1st? And that's definitely not what it means. What I would say is that at this point, you want to be in clear communication with your landlord. And the rules of this are that you have to notify your landlord prior to the date that rent is due if you do not expect to be able to pay. And obviously, your landlord is going to know why, but you have to make it clear that it's because of the impact that this crisis has had on your ability to earn. You are meant to, after you have shared this with them, you're meant to have a week in which you have to provide proof that your income has been affected. Now, Audrey, obviously, we're getting a lot of questions as to what does that proof look like. And that's why I feel like you start with a conversation with your landlord so that they can tell you what they would need to or want to see on their end. If you work at a restaurant or have a job that has been closed down, if you can get a letter, an emailed letter that they have closed down, that you are temporarily out of work, I think that that would be great. If it's a question of showing a few bank statements that shows how income has come in, and explaining to them how that income has gone away and been affected. But that's what I think we're looking at. And then the way that this will work is that once the national emergency lifted, you will have 6 months to pay back any past due rent. Okay.
Great.
So is that clear?
I think that's great. So I also wonder if proof of unemployment, so if they've had to file for unemployment, might be another thing to consider for them. For those of you who are freelancers, I know we're talking to a lot of people who are acting coaches, who are teachers, who are voice lesson teachers, yoga teachers, some people who might do some more private things like that, private lessons for yoga or breath work or whatever those things are, that's maybe going to be more difficult to prove. And so I think exactly what Miata is saying of just starting the conversation,
Right.
calling them up and saying, so far I've had X amount of clients cancel. I am not able to do that over, whatever the circumstances are because of COVID-19. I'm happy to write out a statement to you. What would that look like if it looks like, in fact, I'm not going to be able to make April rent?
Right.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right. A simple letter that explains how you make income,
Mm-hmm.
what your approximate average is per month based
Mm-hmm.
on the number of sessions, and how your client base has been impacted, thus affecting you as well.
That's right. And I think also for everybody listening, Miata has talked about, don't there is a ripple effect to this
Yes.
that I think is important to consider. So do you want to talk about the ripple effect?
Yeah, so like basically what I would say is just to remember. I mean, I know some of us may have landlords that are these big conglomerates and, letterhead and all of that stuff. But some of us have landlords who are, just people like us,
Mm-hmm.
and they do not have a moratorium on their mortgages being due, on having to pay for their family and their groceries and all of the bills. And so we just want to remember that they may very well be struggling as well. And the more that we communicate openly and honestly, the more they can be prepared and
Adjust accordingly.
adjust accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, an example that you gave that I think is really important is, if you are renting a house
Right.
and they have to pay the bank and you don't help them to pay what they need so that then they lose the house, then you lose your place because they've lost their house.
Right.
So,
Right.
but they may be charging you more than what the mortgage is. And so a conversation may need to happen of what do we really need to be paying right now so that the actual mortgage is taken care of.
Absolutely. I think that's brilliant. It's remembering that there are many landlords
Mhm.
that the only way that they are able to make their bills is by renting out space in their homes.
Right.
Right.
Great. Okay, so then let's talk about another thing that Italy has done. We obviously haven't gotten there yet, but I believe Italy has put in a freeze on mortgages and mortgage payments. We're not there yet. Is that
We are
correct?
not there yet.
Okay.
I have not heard anything formalized about that yet.
Okay, great. So just something to keep in mind, everybody, to keep
Right.
updated on the news.
My understanding is that what is in the works is essentially just a payment to every tax-paying citizen.
Great.
So the number that is being, and guys, please, just know that this is what we're seeing, but this has in no way been formalized.
It's not
But
done.
the number that we're hearing is $1,000 per adult and $500 per child.
Okay, great.
That's what we're hearing. And hopefully we'll get clarity on that in the next week.
Okay, great. And so that brings us to taxes. So as many of you may know, April 15th is tax season. Let's first talk to our listeners who are individuals with the Social Security paying their personal taxes, and then let's also talk to those who are incorporated.
Okay.
So for those of you who are, concerned about your individual taxes, let's talk about that.
Okay, so the federal government is still asking that your tax returns be filed by April 15th. But if you owe any taxes, the due date for those payments has been extended to July 15th with zero interest, zero penalties. Okay. So as of right now, you do still need to file, but you do not have to pay anything. In terms of the state, the FTB, the Federal Tax Board, right?
Yeah, board. Yeah, right.
They have postponed actually until July 15th the filing and payment deadline. Now, it's a little bit, I feel like, of a non-issue, the fact that they've extended the filing, because if you're filing your federal by April 15th, it's not really going to save you to not file the state at that time. But so I would say what our aim is to have everybody file by April 15th or file an extension by April 15th, and then understand that no taxes are due until July 15th.
Great. That's wonderful. So please file an extension by April 15th, and nothing will be due. So far, the current the official government word is July 15th.
July 15th.
Great.
Absolutely.
And so let's talk about those who have a corporation and who are incorporated.
So it's the same.
Great.
The corporate deadline is April 15th.
Great.
So
Same
they would
deal.
have to do that as well.
Okay, and go ahead and also do the extension if that's something that you need to do. Many of you who are incorporated, now is a good time to get on the phone with your accountant, find out what you need to do. I don't want you getting out of this several month process that we may be in and then being hit with a bunch of bills and stuff from your taxes. So let's just let's be aware of what that is.
Absolutely. And just flew out of my head, but yes, I want everybody to just make sure you're clear that even if you file an extension, any taxes you owe will still be due by July 15th. Okay. So we sometimes get confused because the extension is October 15th, but you still owe, if you owe, that has to happen by July 15th.
Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so then let's talk about organizing their money so that they know how much runway they have. So when Miata talks about understanding your runway, that's like how much space do you have financially? So that's looking at your costs. This is like your monthly essential costs. And then how much room do you have in savings? How much room do you have? How much money do you have in your accounts? And then again, how much money do you have available to you on credit cards? And then we'll also get into, do you have people that you can speak with for financial assistance?
Exactly.
So I've asked Miata and I to go gently with this because I know that this is already an emotional thing for a lot of people. I always tell people to take Miata's class over at the Actors Fund, but I'm also aware that it's a lot of confront. And so I just want everyone to just go as gently with this as you can. And this is so that you're not like spinning in your head all your financial concerns, but that they're like laid out, written down, so you know your financial realities for the time being. And then you can have a plan going forward.
Right. Because the only thing we can do right now is get clear. That's the only thing. And I really believe so strongly, Audrey, that I believe this all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
boy, is it true now. We must be kind to ourselves,
Yes.
gentle with ourselves, loving to
Yes.
ourselves, right?
Yes. Great.
And please know that as we talk you through this process, what I'm suggesting is that your mantra be good enough, right? We're just trying to get enough information, good enough
Good
information.
enough. A
Okay?
general assessment. Let's
Yes,
not get off into the weeds. Let's not,
exactly.
criticize ourselves for something expensive we bought 2 weeks ago because we didn't realize that this was all going to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, this is a time where we have to work to silence all the voices about debt, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because many of us will need to borrow now.
Yes. Yes.
And we're just going to do the best we can, and then we will climb out of it
Mm-hmm.
when this period of time is over.
That's right.
So I'm going to just suggest that you sit down and try to get clear on what the most critical payments are that will get you through the next 30 to 60 days. So if we start by getting clear on a month, we can then just extrapolate from that to 2 months if necessary. Okay.
Great.
So we're going to focus on those true necessities. We're going to focus on our rent or mortgage, right?
Yes.
We're going to focus on all of our utilities and especially including now, certainly cell phones and internet,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, and are any insurance, any critical insurances. Now, like one of the things, Audrey, that you had talked about when we were preparing is if you are a 2-car family and there is a possibility of only driving one car,
Mm-hmm.
can you contact your insurance company and shut off the insurance on the second car and
Mm-hmm.
not drive that vehicle? But your critical insurances, health insurance, at least car insurance for one car,
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things we do want to continue.
So I
Okay.
want to pause and I want to say, I need everyone to grab a pen and a paper, and I want you to write this down. So right now, pause, get yourself a pen and a paper and write this down. So first we have mortgage and or rent,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have critical insurances and critical utility bills.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so your insurance, your car insurance, please pay your health insurance right now. Now is the time that you need
absolutely.
your health insurance. And please make sure that your internet and your cell phone are
Yeah.
covered.
And also, obviously, we've got to cover our homeowner's insurance or our
Mm-hmm.
renter's insurance,
Mm-hmm.
right, guys? Like, I don't want anybody panicked, but at the same time,
Prepared.
theft at this point could be devastating, right? So
Yes.
please make sure you're continue to be covered in terms of the protection of you and your things, your most important things,
That's
right?
right. Great.
Um, Definitely. Now, for many people, this is going to be included in insurance, but if you are uninsured or underinsured, I need you to be factoring your medications,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I do believe that there are a number of therapists as well as insurance companies that are doing everything that they can to help in the area of therapy. But I would consider that a pretty critical expense
Yes.
during this time.
If you are somebody who suffers from anxiety or depression and you have medication that is vital to you to maintain some wellness in that, and you have a doctor that you need to see in order to get that medication accessible to you, that goes under the vital essentials that we want to make sure that you are planned to know that you need to pay for.
Right, right.
Great. Okay, then let's talk about what other essentials do they need to pay for?
Um, I think those are the core. Oh, food.
Yeah, I was going to say
Sorry.
food and gas.
Yes.
Yes.
Food, gas, transportation. So your transportation is going to be significantly more limited,
Mhm.
but we definitely need to make sure that if you're in LA, the car has a full tank of gas, right? And if you're in New York, that you do have some metro or
Access.
access,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right.
And yes, obviously food. Sorry
Yes.
for that.
Yes. So food, make sure that you're stocked up for whatever you need to be stocked up for. And depending on your finances, maybe it's going to be potatoes, rice, and beans this month. That's fine.
Right. And
And
pasta.
pasta, absolutely. And that's okay. And as far as your transportation is concerned, yes, full tank of gas. I can't recommend more highly if you have access to extra gas cans and you want to have an extra bit or two on you, then at least you're covered for a minute. I think that's a smart recommendation. And then yes, anything that can get you out of town if you need to, if you're in any of these other markets, I would say.
Right.
Great. So then they're going to do what with all this information?
So now we add it up, right? We add those things up. And Audrey, what this will also help us to do is it will help us to just scan your bank and credit card statements for the last couple of months, looking for things that aren't the things we just named,
And she
right?
doesn't mean scan on your computer. She means look through with your eyes.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly. So if you have a printer at home and can print the statements out for maybe the last couple of months from the bank account that you spend out of and the credit card or credit cards that you spend out of, it would be great, because what we want to do is, and what I would do is I sit there with a piece of paper and I would be going through my statements to remind me, oh, yes, there's that acting class. All right, what's the status of that class? Has it been temporarily put on hold? Is it being taught online? So what's happening with that payment? Um, are there things that you can cancel or pause, right? We're scanning the list for all non-essentials to see if there's anything that can be done about those.
So I'd love to go through a few that Jesse and I have thought of and found, just that
Great.
might be
Yes,
helpful to
yes,
people. So I am a subscriber to the unlimited Rent the Runway subscription for clothing because I attend a lot of events and a lot of public speaking stuff, and there's a lot of pictures taken. Also, I love clothes. And I've gone ahead and paused that membership. Jesse has canceled our Audible membership. This is a time where if you have access, if you have Netflix and you can use somebody else's Hulu, and then somebody else can use your HBO and you can use somebody else's Showtime, anything like that, that might be worth it for you. Maybe right now you just cancel all of them but one and just see what you need to do and sort of tightening that out a little
yes.
bit.
One that
There's
I found, I'll just jump in
Please.
before I forget, Weight Watchers, right?
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
like that was one that, yeah, can absolutely be paused right
Right.
now, right?
We're eating pasta right now, so Weight Watchers, you're going to have to hold.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right. Anything that is sort of, this is when they talk about this time period in time, a lot of what is said about this time period is that this is the era of subscribing.
Yeah.
So that, companies know that it's easier and more digestible for us to pay little bits at a time rather than large sections. So this is a time to really think about any of those non-essential subscriptions that you want to go ahead and let go of. I would pause, I would hold. I called Disneyland and they have not allowed holding on anything as of thus far, but I'm going to call them again probably in a week and see what they're doing is they're extending, this is for California, everyone has a Disney pass, but they're just adding whatever you have, they're going to add it on the back end after your annual pass. But I would rather them just stop charging me. That would be ideal. So any of that information for you that is a non-essential subscription, take a look at, or it's not a subscription, maybe it's like she said, an acting class or something that you do every month. I personally, Audrey, have an acting monthly budget, and I'm not necessarily going to be using all of that stuff. That might be going to other essentials right now at this time.
But
Okay.
it will also remind you as you scan your statements of those things that you actually can't cancel that we didn't include in that core list.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. I can't cancel my my QuickBooks software, right? Because that's my whole tracking system and that has to be maintained. But I might not think about that right now.
Right.
And so I need to be reminded of some of these things that may be necessary to keep your life and or business running.
Great. So now you take that number and that's the number, that's sort of the essential number that you need to have for this month and for next month, right? We'll say 1 to 2 months, hopefully minimum, hopefully maximum, but we're looking at 1 to 2 months, right?
Yes. So I feel the reason why I'd like everybody to know what it would take you to get through 2 months is because right now, so for instance, right now, we're pretty clear that the soonest this could change is 1 month from now. Okay. But what we also know is it will then take us time to ramp back up and to start catching up. So if I know that the minimum I can get by with is $4,500 a month, then I would now be thinking about a $9,000 total.
Great.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay,
so
great.
Now I have that, let's say, $9,000 total. And then we're going to do what Audrey started talking about at the beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to look first at how much do you have, if any, no, sorry, give me a second. Instead, I'm going to have you do it this way. Okay. What amount of money, if any, do you still feel confident you are earning?
Great.
Okay? So that's the first piece, because I know for many of us it's zero, but that's not true for everyone. So is there any source of income that will continue? So then you would factor out what that amount is.
Great.
Okay.
Yes. So if you are $9,000 is your total and you feel confidently because maybe of some sort of online business that you have, or some sort of, a lot of people are on like medium employ, they have their hours cut in half. A lot of people are still doing restaurant deliveries, food service, things like that. If you're a person in that environment, then you can probably guesstimate that maybe you're going to be able to count on 4,500, so half of that. So you would want to know half of that is covered, but then where are you going to get the other half? Now, if your total is zero and you're like, I cannot count on any income over the next couple months, so I am looking forward to 0 out of 9,000, then I want you to know that number as well. And then with that number, what do we do?
Okay. So then we look at savings. Are there any savings? Okay. And what I would suggest at this point is that you are looking at your liquid savings. Okay. I am getting some questions about retirement accounts. I have hope that the government will let us know about perhaps a penalty waiver on withdrawing from retirement. But again, we don't have any information like that yet. Right. So this would be looking at where you are liquid, right? Any liquid savings. Okay. Right. So let's say I've got $1,000 just to keep, between my various savings accounts, I know that I've got $1,000. Okay, great. So now you would subtract that again from your total. Okay?
Great. And then from that, let's say that you think you have $0 coming in, you have 9,000 that you need to have, you have $1,000 in savings. Okay. So what's our next resource?
So we have $8,000 that we have to find. So what I would ask you to do next is to look and list any lines of credit that you have. So credit cards, home equity lines, any personal loans that you might have, any sources of credit. And what I'm suggesting is that we list them for ourselves from lowest interest to highest interest.
Great.
Okay.
And that's something that you guys can go ahead and do on your apps.
Yeah.
You can look at a previous statement and it'll say what the interest rate is.
Right.
Great. And so you can list it in order of lowest interest rate to highest interest rate. And why are we doing that, Miata?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to list it from lowest interest rate to highest interest rate. Then I'm going to ask you to put down next to that. So I would just make a list, put down next to that for each line of credit, what's the current balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then next to that, what amount of available credit do you have? Okay. Now, the reason I want you to put it in order from lowest interest to highest interest is because we want to strategically use debt, use our credit in the best possible way we can. Again, remembering good enough and
Mm-hmm.
doing the best that we can.
Mm-hmm.
So, what obviously we would suggest is that you be trying to use your lowest interest rate debt source first, right?
Right.
And so once you have that list, it allows you to get on the phone and start talking to each lender. And what we want to find out is, are they offering any assistance to their customers right now? And what assistance are they offering?
Great. So this is something that a lot of actors I've been talking with, and they're having a lot of luck with it. So they are doing any of the following things. A lot of them can freeze your interest rate so that way it doesn't go up. A lot of them are canceling the minimum balance payment. So they're waiving that. And what I'm being told is everyone's sort of waiving it month to month. So that if your credit card bill new cycle starts on like the 10th of April, then you would just call again on the 11th of April and say, can I get another minimum balance, penalty removal for the following month? I'm also being told they're willing to waive interest charged right now. Some of them, depending on what you are, they're willing to waive an interest fee charge from month to month, but again, on a month to month basis. Now, some cards aren't willing to do any of it. It
Right.
just depends on what kind of cards you have. And so you just have to sort of do what you can with what you can and just know what kind of runway you have. Now, many of you have rent and stuff that you pay by check. And maybe, Miata, it's something that for those who don't have savings and don't have income available to them that they can count on, and they're going to have to depend on cards, maybe something is part of their conversation of talking to their landlord is seeing if there is a way to pay any rent via what is it, internet,
Yeah,
via
using credit cards.
electronic.
Right,
Right.
absolutely. Using credit cards, if
Mm-hmm.
you have that credit available,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the other question that I would want you to be asking. Are any of your best interest rate cards
Mm-hmm.
willing to extend your credit line, if that would
Yes.
be helpful?
So when you
And
say extend your credit line, you say like make it from 5,000 to 10,000.
exactly,
Great.
exactly. Even 7,500, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Audrey, I know you have a very active social media platform on
Yes.
Instagram, and
Yes.
I would really encourage people to share what
Mm.
companies are helping. So if you call Chase and they tell you we'll do this and this, share if you can on at Audrey Helps Actors. Chase will told me they'll do this for me,
Yeah.
so that
So
other people with Chase, if they're not getting that answer,
can
can
tell
push,
them.
can push.
So here's what I want you guys to know about how we'll do that. So I'm always sharing stories. So when you tag me in your story, I will share it in my story. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
So if you want to share in your story, uh, you know, I just got off the phone with Chase credit card, this kind of credit card with Chase. They are willing to fill in blah, 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 blah. They are unwilling to do blah, blah, blah. And then you post that, then I will go ahead and repost that so that people can continue to follow my stories for the information that they need based on credit card to credit card. Okay.
Okay, great,
Great.
great. Um,
Okay.
so now you've called everybody who you have. This is also where I would suggest, again, if we need it, PayPal offers loans,
Mm,
right? That's a place that some of us with solid credit, but perhaps not excellent, might qualify for
right.
a PayPal loan. The other thing, guys, is there are credit unions who are really stepping up for their members. So I
Awesome.
know that First Entertainment Credit Union is offering up to $5,000 interest-free loans.
Wow.
Yeah, so definitely, um, if you are a member of a credit union, reach out to see what they might be able to do in this time of need.
And if you're not a member of a credit union, it's not hard to join. All you have to do is have some money that, you can call them up. I had an actor who literally bought a car 2 days before everything exploded and put it on a loan, and they were charging them like 5%. And I told them to call the SAG-AFTRA Federal Credit Union and see if they can just move the loan under a lower interest rate under SAG-AFTRA, and it was 1.9%.
Wow.
So that's
Wow.
quite the hefty difference.
Yes.
And all she has to do is have like, I think it's like $100 or something in a savings account. She just has to open up a savings account, and then she can go ahead and move the loan over. So that's something that you can do, you know, over the phone and the internet to sort of help you perhaps during these times. So we have the SAG-AFTRA Credit Union, the First Entertainment Credit Union, and then there's like another.
The Actors Federal Credit Union.
Great. And then there's the Actors Federal Credit Union. Okay, so this is a time to reach out to them if that's something that you know. So, other than loans, what's our next resource?
Okay, so then our next resource is friends and family,
Great.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we're making a list of the family and or the friends who we can ask for help. And guys, it's it's a time where um, I believe that we're going to see the best of people, and I understand that it can be hard to ask, but I also feel that if you can get clear on what it's going to take to get you through the next couple of months and can bring the request, a very specific request, and what it's going to allow you to do,
Mm-hmm.
I think that um, people will help if they can.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that. That I think it's one thing if you say to your friends or family, I need $5,000. That's a lot to just come up with. But if you can say, okay, I've done the math. Here's what happens. This is my job. I've been in the restaurant industry, or I've been a vocal coach for X amount of years. This is what my income has been coming in at. Now I'm looking at zero income, and I don't know when the end will be in sight. Here's what I'm doing on my end. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that, and say my total essential bills to cover. I've talked to my landlord. This is the minimum that we've come to an agreement of me paying at the moment. And this is what I'm comfortable knowing I need to spend for groceries, my car insurance, my health insurance, my bills. And the amount of money that I need from you is this amount to cover this time period. That to me is somebody that I feel you can feel more comfortable with, because that's somebody who's taking responsibility for their finances, for their financial path, and is looking at it realistically instead of just like in a moment of panic and help me,
Exactly, exactly.
right?
And that it allows the giver to know that the gift or the loan is actually going to help. Because
Specific
sometimes,
things.
specifically, because sometimes when we're really scared and we just say, I need help. And so then the person, sends you $1,500. But the
Mm-hmm.
truth is that at the end of the day, that still isn't going to keep your family fed, or that still isn't going to,
Right.
then they don't they don't know that their gift is going to actually serve you. So it's being as clear as we can on what we need.
I think that's really great. And, you know, it's just, Miata had said, just a list of a few people for many of you, you know, and so maybe you don't have to ask, you know, depending on what your situation is, you don't have to ask for, you know, from all of it from one person. You know, you can ask for this bit from that person and this bit from that person. For some of you, it might be easier and better for you to ask for one person, depending on what your connections or family circumstances are. But it's just something to think of. And I think it is it's a to me a thought out, thoughtful way to ask for help, which to me would ingratiate a willingness to help from another person who is able. Great.
And I think that after those key steps, then depending on where you are, that would then be where you were looking for grants, emergency assistance, all of the various funds that you might have a connection to that may be finding ways to help.
Great. Okay, so then let's talk about filing for unemployment.
Okay, great. So, you know, I'm particularly familiar with California. I'm relatively certain that there's something very similar in most states. So, filing for unemployment, they have waived the 1 week unpaid waiting period, which is great. So, what I'm hearing from clients is that they are able to file their claims online right away. They are not requiring you to be looking for work, like that's usually obviously the requirement, but they're not requiring that at this time for obvious reasons. So if you qualify for unemployment and you have lost work, we would suggest that you get that application in right away.
Great. Now, if they are incorporated, I get a lot of questions about actors who earn their money from incorporation versus actors who do not, and whether or not they can file for unemployment. My understanding, and you can clear this up, is that if you have been setting yourself up to file for unemployment, you probably know that already.
Yeah.
And you should contact your accountant to see if that's true.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, people who are incorporated have not been do not qualify for unemployment because there's a way that you pay in that when you're incorporated, you're not paying in.
Right.
Just
So
so everybody knows.
it really depends on, and this is why, Audrey, you're absolutely right, that you need to be talking with your tax preparer, your CPA, about how you've done this, because it's about whether your corporation is running payroll and with what regularity they're running payroll. So Audrey's right. If you're running payroll, then you've been paying into unemployment, you've been paying into Social Security, and those safety nets will be there. If you haven't been, then you likely will not qualify.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So then let's talk about, for many people who, let's say, you know, you need to earn $9,000, and let's say your credit cards are, listen, this is a lot of actors, a lot of people, it's a lot of actors. Your credit cards are maxed out. You are now no longer, you don't have a job. And maybe you're freelance, so unemployment's not really even an option for you. And you don't have any family that you can call or talk to. And let's talk about, for people in that group, the option of filing for bankruptcy.
Well, so I am not certain, truthfully, in that situation that you describe, Audrey, bankruptcy is not going to help that person.
Okay, great.
Because the only thing that it would do, so their credit cards are maxed out. The only thing that bankruptcy would do is it would eliminate your minimum payments. Okay. Now, that might be huge depending on what you're paying in minimum payments, but it would certainly not give you any additional money, if that makes sense, because
Yes.
you're now going to lose any access to those cards. In your scenario, they were maxed out anyway, right?
Right.
So this is what I largely feel. I largely feel that at this point in time, focusing our energy on the work that would be required to file bankruptcy is probably not a good use of your time. Okay.
Wonderful.
If you simply cannot pay your payments, don't pay them, right?
Great.
Because at the end of the day, if you are going to file bankruptcy as we come out of this, then you would stop paying them anyway. And let's preserve those funds so that you have whatever those funds are available to you instead of essentially putting them on towards these cards,
Wonderful.
right?
Great.
So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, so I hope that that's helpful to everyone in terms of giving you some information that is relatable. Obviously, this is our update for this week. If a bunch of new stuff comes out, within the next week or in the next couple of days, if something crazy happens where they're announcing some financial assistance or they're announcing some sort of, furthering of anything that is, I'd say, particularly pertinent to the financial health of artists, actors, people who listen to this podcast, then we are going to do our best to keep you updated and informed on what you can do and what your best options are. But go ahead.
I also want to throw out, right, that there are there are lists out there that you can find. There are some opportunities for online work depending on the skills that you might have. And I do feel like now is also really the time to think about what's possible for you, right? So there are literally millions of children now who have been forced into homeschool. Are you someone who can tutor in a particular area, who can offer something online, right? That and fill a very particular need. I'm not saying that there are miracle solutions, but that could start to bring in bits of money that can help you through this. I also have clients now, again, you have to be at a certain level of health, but I definitely have clients who are applying for work at those essential places that have not been closed. So who are applying to work at grocery stores, at pharmacies that are now burdened with feeding people to help restock shelves at night, things like that. And they are following as many protections as they can. So, Audrey, obviously we're not suggesting this for anyone who's in any way physically autoimmune compromised or anything like that. But do know that now there are some opportunities if you're willing and able to, expand your horizons in that
and
area.
that helps everybody. They need more help. And if you have, if you're one of those people with a Harvard degree, but you are freelancing, now's a good time to apply at the grocery store.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have to really come together and get whatever resources we can and help each other have access to whatever resources we can have access to. I think that's great.
Right. And
so
find
now let's
some of the joy and connection that, you know what, like stocking some shelves with people could actually, for some of us, be an important way to get out and do our part.
Yeah. And we'll also keep you moving for a lot of you, keep you moving, keep you out of your head and out of the dark space that maybe you live in during times like this. Okay. So now let's go ahead and move on to those of you who are financially healthy. If you feel that you are financially stable, a lot of actors are reaching out to me. They're in this position. They have maybe a spouse who has a certain kind of job, or lots of actors are in tech, which I love. A lot of actors are in programming. It allows them a lot of access, and they work from home generally. It's all accessible on their computers, and they're still having lots of checks come in, that sort of stuff. So I want to talk to that community and how they can maybe help be of best support to others during this time while also being able to get something in return.
Absolutely. So I feel like you had some great ideas about this. And I think it is about looking for what help could we really use at this
Mhm.
time, and being just being thoughtful about finding those sources of help as much as possible within the community, right?
That's right.
So if you know that your children are home and they were in a Spanish immersion school or a French immersion, one of the public charters, and that now you're like, oh my gosh, 3 months from now, my children won't be able to speak Spanish. Can you reach out just on your social media community, asking for any currently out of work
Hmm.
actors or industry people or artists who could teach Spanish, right?
Right.
Like finding those ways to could you really use some help, some administrative work that can be done online, some
Yes.
tech help, any of that kind of thing that people might be able to help you do.
That's right. So I think a great thing to do is to think of things that you could be using during this time to get ahead, to really, if you're not able to be in acting classes right now, you're not able to go to your improv class, you're not able to get the training that you normally would get. You're not able necessarily, I think right now, because of California, workshops are done, any of that sort of stuff. Are you able to ask your community for recommendations for things that are accessible online? So some thoughts that I have is there are a lot of acting coaches out there who make their money by being coaches. And because there are no auditions, a lot of those coaches are seeing a significant reduction in their income. And those of you who have the financial stability to go ahead and use those coaches for audition practice and audition prep, we're doing currently Market Research March. And if you are finding stuff from your market research that you're like, oh, I would like to work on sides like this, I'd like to work on David E. Kelly sides, I'd like to work on sides from, Vince Gilligan, then you've transcribed them, you work on them, and then you can do a FaceTime or Skype coach session with an acting coach and help continue to support them during this time, even though there's no auditions. I really think, staying fresh and staying, actors have to act. And when you're not acting, you get depressed. So things like that are something that you can go ahead and use to assist other artists if you're in sound financial health. Another idea is, there's a lot of yoga teachers, a lot of actors are yoga teachers, are personal trainers, that stuff that can be done over the internet. Admin work, as Miata said, there are a lot of bookkeepers. You guys, your numbers are not in order. I know they're not. They are not in order.
Exactly.
Your receipts, for some of you, need to be counted. For a lot of you, you haven't gone through Meow's class to learn how to organize your money. Now would be a great time to hire somebody who could help you do that. Again, just like she said, any sort of bookkeeping, organizational, anything I think would be really valuable. There's also lots of actors who teach voice lessons, things like that. That's also something that you can be doing. Dog walkers, any of the like, there are a lot of people out there who have skills and they don't have access to jobs. So I really like the recommendation that you had, Miata, of like posting on social media, looking for an actor who speaks fluent whatever, looking for an actor who is QuickBooks certified, looking for an actor who is a bookkeeper, looking for an actor who can help me whatever job it is, and help pump that money back
Yeah.
into our community to help those actors who are going to be struggling over these next couple of months and help them out. I also want to say, now is a great time if you have not taken Miata's class and you have not gotten your finances in organization yet, and you are looking at these next couple of months, and you can sort of withstand the confront, because it's a lot of financial confront. But if you think you can stand the confront, or maybe you need a little help from somebody to help you withstand the confront, that's something that maybe you and an accountability buddy can go through your finances together online. You have all your finances on in front of you, they have all their finances in front of them, but you're just going to sit down for a few hours, and you're going to go through your stuff, and they'll go through their stuff. You're just going to hold each other accountable to start to
Right.
organize your finances.
And I want to remind people, like, follow Abundance Bound on
Mhm.
Instagram,
Mhm.
because we have a lot of really loving ways. I mean, I know
Yes.
Audrey's right that it can be confronting, but I do truly believe that we can help you put, get clarity without feeling like it's torture, right?
Yes.
And the clarity makes you powerful.
For me, this, I'm guessing for a lot of people, this is a very good financial wake-up call. And I just want to say, for me, having taken your class, and I'm a person that had already, not to anyone's surprise, had lots of organization on my finances, and lots of awareness about them, but having a sort of uh, awareness in specific that is geared very much towards our community and towards actors, I found very helpful. And for a lot of you, if this is a financial wake-up call, then this might be a time for you. I'm getting emails from actors who are saying, oh, I'm now planning for things, that once my finances are back in order, I'm planning for certain expenses. I'm planning because they have the time to sort of, it helps them to stay positive, think of what they can be looking forward to, right?
Right,
And
right,
so for many of you, you might be in the position to spend this time while you're in your lockdown and go through your finances and find out, how much money do you spend a year on your acting? How much money do you make a year on your acting? How much money are you spending on rent? Are you going to need to adjust that? What are some ways in which you can add growth and savings? And how much money would you like to be making in the next couple of months if you're in debt, to sort of get yourself out of debt, and then grow an active savings for yourself, so that, hopefully decades from now, if anything like this should ever happen again, you find yourself on the financially healthy side of things and not on the financially panicked side of things. I think this could be a great time for that.
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it does, it comes back to that that thing, that emotional resilience, which I
Mhm.
actually believe that we as a community have had to really build and
Yeah, right.
strengthen, right,
Right.
throughout our lives.
Yeah.
But
We're
that
used to things
emotional,
going wrong.
we're used to things going wrong,
Right.
exactly. And so that emotional resiliency and intelligence that says, you know what, I am where I am, and I have done the best I could with the information I had. And now I'm just going to get even clearer. I'm going to get more information. I'm going to see how I can grow in this area, so that it supports all of your goals and dreams, right?
I love this, what you're saying so much, because so often actors will reach out to me and they will say, how bad they feel about where they are, like how bad they feel about what they've done or what they haven't done, or how they feel like they've been working so foolishly when they could have been working so much smarter. And I always remind them to be kind to themselves, because you really can't do better than you know. We
Exactly.
cannot do better than we have been taught to do. And when it comes to financial literacy, as a nation, we're not great on it. And
Absolutely.
specifically for actors, we are abysmal. And that's why Miata and I are so dedicated to the financial awakening of our community.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Because it empowers us
It
to
does.
do the work that we are here to do.
That's exactly right. Well, Miata, I wish you and your family all of the most best health and happiness. I am going to go ahead and sign off, and we will post this as soon as possible.
Awesome.
All right.
Perfect.
Anything
Thank
else you
you,
want to say to
Audrey.
them?
No, I just want to say, everybody, take care of you and take care of each other virtually. We're going to try and keep giving you as much information as we can. And we all are all in it together.
That's exactly right. All right. Let me text Jesse. So thanks, everybody.